welcome back once again to After the Credits. So I finally got around to seeing a movie I've been talking a lot of shit about for a long time. How I didn't think it was going to be good, how I didn't like any of the look of any of the characters, I should say. I wasn't real happy with the casting choices, and I just overall felt like out of everything the DC universe was going to be putting out, this was going to be its biggest bomb, and that is Suicide Squad. So, was I right? Yes and no. I still am not perfectly happy with the casting choices. I see some potential now that I've seen them actually do the job. There's potential there. They didn't nail it. Sorry. At least not in my eyes. I know a lot of my friends have been like, oh, everyone's perfect. Oh, this character is so good as this character, and this guy is so good as this guy, and this girl is so good as this girl. And I don't know what movie you're watching, but in my mind, they're a little off. The overall movie, I'll get to that in a minute, but forewarned, there are going to be some spoilers, so if you don't want to know what actually happened in the movie until you see it, I'll give you another warning when I'm actually going to spoil something, but there's going to be spoilers in this, so be careful if you're going to skip through the video. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not sure how this movie was actually affected by the rewrites or the reshooting following Batman v Superman. I have seen a couple things online about an alternate take with Harley and the Joker. I might get into that a little bit later, but I've seen that. I've seen Jared Leto recently talking about how a lot of his stuff as the Joker was cut from the film, and he feels like his time was kind of wasted, and that if something were to happen to him, there's enough footage there to make a full-on Jared Leto as the Joker movie. And honestly, maybe that's where they're going to go with it. Maybe the next movie is going to be a Harley Quinn and Joker movie, because that's what everyone says. There was so much Harley Quinn and Joker in the Suicide Squad, it was almost their movie as opposed to the Suicide Squad's movie. So maybe that's what DC's planning. They took all that extra stuff they shot, and they're going to put together another movie. In which case, Jared Leto should stop complaining, because he's going to get paid twice for almost let a cat out of the bag there. For a shitty acting job. Alright, so let's start with the Joker, because I'm going to go through all the characters and what I liked and disliked about them. Jared Leto's Joker, I see some potential with him at minor intervals. Overall, I think his performance as the Joker sucked. He's trying too hard to play that Heath Ledger style Joker, that whimsical voice and, kind of being maniacal and without being maniacal, that whole type of shit. He does that through the whole fucking thing. There are times when he actually just, drops and he becomes, deadpan serious, and that's where I think he best captures the Joker, but then he immediately goes back to that shit. His Joker, when he tries to be more of the silly side of the Joker and, goofy and laughing and stuff, I don't know what the hell that is. I mean, you see a little bit of it in the preview when he's in the straight jacket and he's just kind of sitting there that's basically anytime he's trying to be the more slapsticky, laughy side of the Joker, that's all he does is just kind of, that's not the Joker. His Joker laugh is horrible. It's not really maniacal at all. It just kind of sounds like somebody trying too hard. I mean, hell, I can do a better Joker laugh than that without trying. Not to mention the overall look of the Joker. It wasn't nearly as bad on film as it looked in the early production photos that leaked out. The first time I saw those, I was like, God, that looks horrible. On film, it translates slightly better, but honestly, I think that's because we don't see that much of the Joker. If we saw as much of him as I hear there was filmed, it probably would have wore thin real fast, his look. Just all the tattoos and stuff. Honestly, that first photo that they put out where he's got his hands on his head and he's reenacting the cover for whatever book that was, I can't even think of right now. And the first time I saw that photo when he has his hands up, I noticed the giant tattoo of a smiling face on his arm. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, these motherfuckers, they're going to go and do the stupidest fucking thing possible because he doesn't have a Joker grin. they're going to have him do the fucking finger mustache with his arm, and the first time they do that, I'm getting up and walking out of the fucking theater. Thankfully, they didn't do it with his arm, but they did it with the one on the back of his fucking hand, because he's got a tattoo of a Joker smile on the back of his hand, so when he wants to do the Joker smile, he just kind of goes like this. The finger mustache is the stupidest fucking thing ever. Joker wouldn't do it, not even to try to be funny. I mean, you're talking about a guy who cuts his own fucking face off to prove a point. You really think he's going to be like, hey, look, I got a mustache. Look, I'm not going to hold that against Jared Leto because I've actually read an article where he actually tried to get a more Heath Ledger-style Joker grin, you know, scars on his face and stuff. Again, pushing way too hard to try and be Heath Ledger. That's a different Joker in another universe. You don't need to be Heath Ledger. Heath Ledger's Joker actually wasn't that good. I've said that repeatedly. Everyone got on his fucking nuts about how great of a performance it was just because he died shortly before that film was released. Was he an okay Joker for what the part was? Yes, and I'm talking about Heath Ledger. Was he the best fucking Joker ever, like everyone tries to say? No. Honestly, I thought Heath Ledger fell short in comparison to other Jokers. Jared Leto, let's say Heath Ledger's here. Jared Leto's kind of down here. You know, he's just trying too hard to be Heath Ledger, and he's not. So, that's my view on the Joker. Nothing really changed other than, you know, his look was alright on screen compared to what it looked like in the photos. Again, that has a lot to do with DC muting colors, but whatever. Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn. Another character that when I saw the first set photo, I was like, what the fuck is that? Everyone's like, oh, she looks just like Harley Quinn from the comics. No, she doesn't. And the only reason she might look like one if you just walked into the damn comic book store today and looked at the shelf is because now that she's appeared in the film, guess what the writers of the Suicide Squad comic did to her character in the book? They changed her to look more like this fucking movie adaptation. It looked like shit to begin with. Now you're trying to fucking copy it into the comic books, and you're fucking up the character. What didn't I like about Harley Quinn's look? Everything. Hey, first of all, it barely looks like she has any makeup on whatsoever. Okay, I guess in the new 52, Joker pushed her into a chemical vat so her skin is permanently bleached white like his instead of being makeup that she wears. Which, again, doesn't quite make sense because the thing with Harley is that she's always been able to take off her makeup and appear normal when need be. That was kind of her thing. But now, apparently, it's permanent. So, she still wears... Harley in the comics still wears, like, heavy eye makeup. Her eyes are always darkened in. In this, yes, they have the eye makeup, but they use such bright colors, you actually can't tell it's there. You can kind of see the pink when it's ran down her face, but the blue side is like, okay, why she got one eye pink and then nothing? That's how light the blue is. Her hair, they're going with, you know, keeping her blonde hair, but just adding color at the tips. And the color is so faded out. I think they're trying to go with the look of cotton candy, because, again, the one side's pink and the one side's like a light blue, and it looks like a bag of cotton candy. I actually had some cotton candy the other day, and guess what? The colors match perfectly. In fact, if you don't believe me, I have a bag right here. See that nice, pretty, bright pink and blue colors? Yeah, that's her fucking hair. I understand you're trying to go with the cotton candy look because she's a clown, and clowns are from the circus or the carnival, and you get cotton candy at the fucking carnival. But if you actually look in the comics, originally when she actually showed her hair, if she was going to do blue and pink, it would have been full, one half of her head pink, one half blue, instead of the blonde into the highlights. The version where she was all blonde except for the tips, her hair was black and red, just like her original suit was. So aside from her hair and the non-existent makeup, because she just looks like Margot Robbie with frosted tips, whatever you want to call it, let's talk about her outfit. The Daddy's Little Monster shirt that she wears isn't a Harley Quinn uniform. That is more along the lines of the shirt worn by the character that is known as the Joker's daughter. They're taking the Joker's daughter and Harley Quinn and trying to combine them into one character because recently, well, not sure how recently, but not too long back, the Joker's daughter was used as a member of the Suicide Squad as well. So her and Harley worked on the same team. They took those two aspects, matched them together, and this is the Harley Quinn we get. Okay, whatever. It's a shirt. Maybe she borrowed it from the Joker's daughter. The rest of her outfit, she's got the short shorts, whatever. Then I saw online that they digitally altered her shorts to show off more of her ass cheek. Because apparently the short shorts that she actually wore on the set covered too much of her ass and they wanted to be like a fucking G-string shoved up her ass, so they digitally edited her butt to actually make her cheeks hang out. Really? And aside from that, I know it doesn't happen in this movie. This movie differs slightly from what I remember of Suicide Squad. But if I remember right, at the time that the Suicide Squad formed, Harley was actually on the outs with the Joker. He had left her to be arrested, and they kind of had a falling out more or less, and that's what allows her to develop a relationship with Deadshot in the comic. I know recently the Joker has come back into the fold and has created this weird love triangle, but originally she was on the outs with the Joker in the Suicide Squad comic book story. So to have everything revolve around how she's still so in love with him, I understand what you're going for because you gotta have a way to tie Joker into the damn comic, or into the movie, but at least know your damn source material. And the fact that you have her walking around wearing a property of the Joker jacket, again, if it wasn't for the fact that you changed that whole story and they're still supposedly in love or whatever, and she flirts a little bit with Deadshot and he can kind of talk sense to her a little bit, but they don't really explore that relationship aspect of it yet, and there is still, her involvement with the Joker. So I guess I gotta kind of overlook the jacket for that sake. Now, as far as Margot Robbie's performance as Harley, again, there's potential here. I can see certain points in the movie where she embodies Harley Quinn. Other times, she's embodying I don't know what. Harley is kind of goofy, yes. She puts on this facade, per se, of this ditzy clown, when in reality she's actually borderline a genius, according to certain versions of the comic. In this, Margot Robbie doesn't play her as intentionally trying to be ditzy. She plays her as a gum-chewing valley girl. That's not Harley Quinn. Yeah, she may talk kind of odd. She may call her boyfriend Puddin', things like that. But she's not just one of these girls that just walks around chewing gum, twirling their hair. That basically what is referred to as stereotypically as a valley girl. That's what she plays Harley Quinn as. And that's not Harley Quinn. That's not how she was in the animated series when she was conceptualized. That's not how she's been in the comics. She has an elegance to her goofiness that I just don't think, again, people understand the source material of what they're doing. So, there is potential there, but the gum-chewing valley girl thing, I don't know. It doesn't work for me, sorry. Now, let's see who else we got. Deadshot. Will Smith's character, Deadshot. Honestly, I didn't want to see Will Smith in this movie because I'd gotten so sick of Will Smith's acting because he never stops playing Will Smith. Every movie he ever's in, he is Will Smith. He's not whatever character he's supposed to be playing. He's Will Smith playing this character. People used to say the same thing back about Jack Nicholson's Joker, that he wasn't playing the Joker, he was playing Jack Nicholson as the Joker, because Jack Nicholson acts exactly the same in every movie. But he's still able to convey a presence when he's playing that same character, that despite how many movies he does, how much of a great actor he thinks he is, Will Smith just doesn't reach that type of level. The parts of this movie where he wasn't talking and wasn't being Will Smith and was actually being Deadshot, awesome. But it's ruined as soon as he opens his mouth and starts talking. As soon as he starts, hey, I'm Will Smith, and I'm Will Smith and this motherfucker up, and using my catchphrases and my mannerisms and my verbalization, slang, and the way that I talk, I'm just being Will Smith. You're at that point, you're no longer Deadshot. The look of Deadshot, can't really comment on too much. It's okay, I guess. He doesn't wear his mask hardly at all. He wore it like 2 times in the entire movie. At one point, he puts the mask on, and then, like, immediately the next scene, he doesn't have it on again. Unless I missed where it came off, but yeah. They're getting ready to go into this big battle, and he puts it on, and Harley Quinn makes a comment to him. He's like, hey, don't think just because you're a girl I won't knock your ass out. And they that's like one of their little flirty moments. But then, like, the very next scene we see him in, the mask is off. And it's like, wait, what? I mean, it took me a minute to even realize that it had happened, but I was like, what the hell? Where does mask go? Unless I just wasn't paying attention and missed him taking it off and why he took it off, I don't know. Who else we got? Killer Croc. For as little as he's used in this movie, I guess he's okay. He just kind of sits in the background most of the time. He sort of comes in towards the end as the heavy hitter, kind of Hulk-esque. And you kind of know it's going to come. It's kind of telegraphed because he gets separated from the group. So it's like, yeah, Croc's going to come back in and kind of manhandle the big bad. And pretty much, yeah. And then, like, after that, he just kind of goes and sits down in the corner, and that's all you see of him. Not really. He doesn't actually go sit down, but, I mean, that's how little you see him after that. Enchantress. The Hawkeye of this film. That's all I'm going to say about her, because that spoils a shit ton of stuff. Yeah, she's the Hawkeye. I'm talking about first Avengers. The first one, not the second one, where he actually did some shit. Or Civil War, where he did more shit. Nope. First one. She's Hawkeye. Captain Boomerang. Probably the one character I was looking forward to the most, because I actually liked the character of Captain Boomerang, and I was interested in seeing what they were going to do with him in this film. Totally worthless. It's the worst Australian accent I've ever heard, first of all, and I do a very shitty Australian accent. But, yeah, as soon as you first see him and he starts talking, it's like, God, that's horrible. I don't know, maybe the actor's actually Australian, but if he is, I'm sorry, but you have a horrible Australian accent. That's all I'm going to say. His overall look, not sure what they were doing with the whole mutton chops thing, but whatever. It was okay. The other thing is, he barely used his fucking boomerangs. It was like one time he threw a boomerang, and then some shit happened, and then he caught it like a minute later. Another time he used one that was like a drone that he could kind of use for surveillance. But most of the time he just held his 2 boomerangs in his hand, and they had sharpened knife edges, and he just kind of used them as knives and fought with them. Alright, I guess, but I would like to have seen more cunning use of the boomerangs. Like, look how much they do with Hawkeye's arrows. I mean, an arrow is a projectile weapon. You gotta sit there and, like, load it up and take your shot, and do it so quickly. And they still manage to make it interesting enough to draw your attention. Do that with the boomerangs. Don't just use them as knives. Find creative ways that he's constantly throwing out boomerangs and having them come back to him, or having them, like, hit more than one guy, or anything. I mean, he is essentially along the same lines as Green Arrow, where, like, Green Arrow, each of his, and to some degree Hawkeye, each of his arrows can have a different tip on it that does different things. And I think Hawkeyes do too at certain stages, but mostly Green Arrow. But Captain Boomerang has different boomerangs that do different things. So, again, we see it minimally with the surveillance drone boomerang. But I would like to have seen more of it. Yes, they're establishing these characters for future movies, but you could have done more with it. I mean, you trimmed out a lot of shit that I don't know what you did with, and then you reshot a bunch of shit that who knows why. I would like to have seen more done with this character. And maybe a better actor. And improve the look. I mean, come on. Mutton chops. It's been a while since I've read a Flash comic, but last time I looked, Captain Boomerang didn't look like fucking Lemmy from Motorhead. Katana, she was alright. Didn't really do a whole lot through the movie, just kind of stood in the background. Flag, Colonel Flag. Okay, nothing against this actor, but the very first time I saw this actor in anything that I know of was in the American version of The Killing. If you haven't seen it, it's a series where a girl dies in a remotely small town, and it's kind of an investigation into who killed her that spans the first 2 seasons, and then the 3rd season is just off on its own tangent. This actor actually plays a cop in that series, and the point of his character in The Killing is he's a cop who went undercover to try to expose drug dealers, or like this huge drug ring, and ended up becoming a user and is basically a crackhead who's trying to portray a crackhead who's really a cop. And you know, he's kind of scrawny and wiry and kind of has that cracked out look about him. And he actually fits that role great for what it was. Then I saw him as RoboCop. Sorry, when I look at him as RoboCop, I still see that cracked out character, and I'm like, okay, so RoboCop's this scrawny little crackhead now? Okay, well now here he is as Rick Flag, and again, I still just see that crackhead character. I mean, not to mention the guy doesn't really have strong facial features. I mean, you'd think a person like Flag would have more of like the chiseled jawline type of thing, and I mean, this guy looks honestly like the nerdy kid from Road Trip, bulked up a little bit, grew a little shitty peach fuzz goatee, and is now trying to be a badass. And for all I know, honestly, this could be the same guy. Maybe that's exactly what happened. He got a little bit older, bulked up, and grew a shitty goatee. Because they have like a similar facial structure, but I'm not 100% sure if it's him. Although now that I think about it, they do kind of talk the same. I need to look that up. If it is, I might cut this part out. Because that would be embarrassing if it is the same kid. In case you don't know what nerdy kid I'm talking about, he's also the main character from The New Guy. And he was, I think he was in Hustle and Flow at one point. Honestly, I haven't seen that kid in a while. This could be the same guy. I might pause this and look that up. Yeah, he just looks like an older, bulkier version of that kid. So to try and visualize him as the greatest soldier that the Army has ever produced, you know, nice slap in the face there to Captain America, especially when his name's Flag. Really, whatever. So yeah, trying to envision this guy. I mean, just picture that in your head for a second. The New Guy, that scrawny little kid from The New Guy, is the best soldier the U.S. government has ever produced. Let that visualize in your head for a minute. Now visualize that same kid is a little bit older now, is a crackhead, and is still the best soldier America's ever produced. You see why I'm having trouble with this guy doing anything? And it's not that he's a bad actor. He's a good actor. It's just, I can't see him being a tough guy. I'm sorry. He just doesn't have the look. Stick to dramatic shit. You're better. Did I cover all the characters? Amanda Waller, she's okay, I guess, for Amanda Waller. Ben Affleck does return as Batman, briefly. I think I've covered everyone. Now, a half hour later, I haven't even told you about the movie. Just gave you my opinion of the characters. So, the movie, Jesus Christ, where do we start with this fucking mess? So, they take us through and introduce us to all the characters, and then we cut away to Amanda Waller having this meeting where she's proposing the Task Force X, which is Suicide Squad. They kind of give themselves that name because they're Expendables, and Expendables, I guess, was taken. Thanks, Sly. Except Suicide Squad was way before that, I think. Or maybe not. Actually, when did Suicide Squad start? Yeah, actually, they had a older version of Suicide Squad that still involved Flag, but actually it was Flag's father. So yeah, it predates Expendables, but honestly, Suicide Squad has a better ring to it. It's just harder to say. And so we're introduced to the characters. Amanda Waller is having this meeting, trying to promote starting this Task Force X. She goes over a few of the bios that they've already showed us. So everything gets approved. There's a crisis that happens in the center of the city, and it involves metahumans. So they activate Task Force X. Like, okay, here's the deal. You know, you guys are gonna be part of our team, and as a reward, you get like 10 years off your prison sentence, and you know, maybe we'll grant you small requests or something to try and make your prison sentence a little bit more comfortable until you earn your freedom. And you know, they go over like the whole chips in the neck that'll make their heads explode if they try to run, blah blah blah. So it's setting up the Suicide Squad the way it does in the comics and in the animated feature. And in case you've never heard the animated feature, it's called Batman Attack on Arkham, or Assault on Arkham. And yeah, basically that's a Suicide Squad movie. It barely has Batman in it. It's just called Batman, so people would watch it. So they're setting up the Suicide Squad. They're like, okay, whatever, we have no choice. Deadshot asks Flag, you know, what is our objective here? And he goes, we gotta get to this building, you know, get up to the top floor, secure a target, get them out of the building alive, and then that's our mission. Now here's where I'm going to get into the spoiler. So, you don't want to know who the target was that they had to go rescue, skip this part, but it turns out to be Amanda Waller. This whole first hour of the movie was introduce the Suicide Squad, get the team together, and then have them go on a training exercise to see if they can cooperate cohesively to actually be this team, or if they're going to be detrimental to themselves and the actual team that's accompanying them. So they get to the building, and it's revealed to be Amanda Waller, and they're all kind of like, what the fuck, you know, that was just a waste of our time. And during all this, by the way, there's an actual fucking metahuman attack happening a block and a half away, or maybe a couple miles away. It's visible from the fucking street, but they ignore all that. You know, let's not just send them in and have them take down this fucking bad guy that's causing a bunch of shit and destroying half the fucking city from a central point in the city center. Let's send them on this fucking training exercise to see if they can cooperate before we try and send them in to actually do some shit. What? I mean, seriously, it's like, how many people probably died and were injured and everything? Actually, a lot. They give you pretty much a body count in the movie once it actually gets to the extraction of Amanda Waller. But this is going on for probably hours upon hours within the film, and they're doing this fucking training exercise. Really? So after they waste an hour and a half of our time, they say, okay, well, there's some shit going on over here, so now we're going to send you on a real mission. And then they find out some shit that they weren't supposed to know, and since Amanda Waller is technically out of the picture at this point, they kind of turn against Flag, not really like attacking him or anything, but they're just kind of like, yeah, we're done, kill us if you want to, and they all kind of walk off into the bar. Flag comes in, he explains his side of it, and basically after talking with them for a few minutes, they're all like, fuck it, we'll help you, but then we're done. So they go in, they fight the big bad. Of course, they win. It resolves in a happy ending, which, honestly, I kind of wish it didn't go that route, but I know why they did it, because I know they're going to try and reintroduce this character in the next Suicide Squad film, or whatever tie-in film it has, and the only way they could do it is by having the happy ending, because otherwise it would just be a little odd to have them show back up in the next one. Yeah, so they fight the big bad. Everybody's got their happy ending, whatever. And they kind of become a cohesive unit. And they go back to prison. They all get, you know, a request that they can make. Deadshot gets to see his daughter for a couple hours. Harley Quinn gets an espresso machine in her cell. Killer Croc gets a TV so he can watch BET. Even though he lives in the sewer, now he's actually living in the cage upstairs. Whatever. Didn't really show what the other ones requested. It was just those three mainly. And then we have kind of our cliffhanger ending where, spoilers again by the way, the Joker breaks in and is there to rescue Harley, and then credits. You know, he just kind of breaks into her cell, you know, reveals who he is, and she's like, put in, and then he's like, you ready to go home, and then credits. Now, this is only the third time second or third time in the film that he attempted to rescue her, as far as what we've seen, minus all the shit that was cut. And he rescued her at one point, and then the helicopter he was in crashed, and then she managed to survive the crash, and she thought he was dead, so she returned to the squad after trying to escape, and she's like, look, sorry I left, but Joker's dead, so I have no place else to go. And they take her back in because, she's one of them at that point. They don't blame her for trying to get her escape all they could. There is a deleted scene online where this ending, where Joker comes back and gets her, he shows up and his face is half burnt from the helicopter crash, and he asks her to come with him, and she kind of says, no, I'm part of something here, I'm going to stick around. And obviously they didn't use that take because he breaks in to break her out, she's still in love with him, jumps on him, gives him a hug and kiss and whatever, and he says, ready to go home, and before she answers, credits. So, yeah, honestly, I think the other ending probably would have fit better with him showing up, saying, come with me, and her saying no, because it can lead into an issue needing to be resolved in future films. Joker feels shunned, he comes back at them, now he's the big bad, that leads into the love triangle. There's just a lot of more that you could have worked with having her turn him down, as opposed to him showing up, because now where does that leave the team? She's off the team in the next one, they're going to introduce another character to fill that spot. I don't know, they already talked about King Shark coming in the next one, so who knows. So yeah, there you have the movie. It's first hour and a half, you're on a fucking training exercise, and you got 30 minutes of the actual final boss fight, and yeah, it's whatever. Overall, what would I give it as far as a star rating? Honestly, it wasn't that bad of a film until you find out it was a training exercise the whole time. Leading up to that, all the action scenes were decent. It has an awesome soundtrack, I'll give it that, except they blow a lot of the songs within the first couple minutes. It's like each time they introduce one of the members of the team, they play a different song for them. So like, yeah, first you got like Paint It Black, and then when it cuts to Harley Quinn, they play like You Don't Own Me, and then when they cut to Killer Croc, they have another song. And like, they just go through like 5 or 6 songs right in the first 10 minutes of the movie. It's like, Jesus Christ, burn your whole soundtrack right here, right? And then I think they only play like 2 or 3 more songs at different points in the movie. And it's like, you got this awesome soundtrack, and you burned it all up in the first 10 minutes and then barely use it through the rest. Whatever. So yeah, what would I give as far as a star rating? Like I said, it's not a horrible film. If it was just a straight up action film that didn't involve comic book characters, again, I'd still be pissed off when you find out the whole thing was a fucking training exercise, and then you gotta go down the street and fight this big bad who's been down here blowing shit up for the past 2 hours. But it would have been a decent action film regardless, and that's what this is. It's a decent enough action film. They do what they can with as many characters as they're trying to introduce. Unfortunately, it's just, I don't know who's writing the DC, Warner Brothers. What is your deal? Why is it you can create all these amazing TV series, you can create these amazing animated series, you can create all these amazing animated films, but when it comes to the live action films, you guys just shit the bed. It's, what? I don't know. So again, star rating, 2.5. I don't know, 2.5. Like I said, it was alright. Casting choices kind of shit. Character designs kind of shit. Stupid fucking premise with it being the train exercise for the first hour and a half. Misuse of characters. Whatever. Decent enough action film. I mean, like I said, if it was just an action film, it would have been at least a 3 for middle of the road. But because of all the other shit tied to it, how much shit got cut out, how much shit got rewritten, what the original movie could have possibly been, loses a lot. I mean, that's almost why I dropped it down to a 2, but I wasn't 100% hating it when I left the theater. There is an after the credits scene that tries to introduce Justice League, whatever. Yeah, so there you have it. I'm going to give it somewhere between 2 and 2.5, 2 and a quarter. 2.5. We'll stick with that. Okay. So that's my 40 however many minute review of Suicide Squad. I'll probably trim this down quite a bit, try and get it under 30 minutes. I doubt you guys will watch me talk for a full hour about this movie. So there's my review. Hope you enjoyed it. As always, thank you guys for watching. Remember, like, comment, subscribe, share the video. Links to Instagram, Twitter, all that shit down there in the description. And until next time, we'll see you after the credits.